Greetings, everybody, to the flagship podcast recap of Texas's 28-14 season-ending loss to Ohio State in the college football playoff semifinals here at the Cotton Bowl, Jerry World in Arlington. I'm Chip Brown of Horns247.com, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, snappily dressed colleague in the suit tonight, the one and only Eric Henry of Horns247.com. And Eric said going into this one, you hoped it would be two teams playing at the height of their powers, and we got that really throughout this game. So many good things done by the Texas Longhorns in this game. Just crazy, sad, whatever, if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, to see how it ended. You can kind of start with two plays that are kind of unfathomable. The simple screen with 13 seconds left in the first half that goes for 75 yards and a touchdown because Texas is in a prevent mode where their back seven retreated 25 yards and just got caught by this well-called screen pass that turns into a 75-yard touchdown, Eric. Just play defense, you know? I mean, they're on their own 25 with 29 seconds left. Just play defense. But they give up that touchdown. They fight back. And it's 21-14. They have first and goal from the 1 with 4 minutes left. And not only do they not score, they go backwards on third down and then on second and third down, and then they get a strip sack on fourth down that Jack Sawyer returns 83 yards for the game-winning touchdown. Are you kidding me? Eric, your thoughts?
Chip, I'm not someone who really thinks that, football games comes down to one or two plays. I mean, when you have a game that goes, 60, 70, 80 plays, there's so many things that play a factor in the outcome of a football game. But it would be hard to deny that this game came down to two sequences. One, as you alluded to, the close of the first half, the screen pass that went 75 yards for a touchdown. And you and I talked about that play extensively during halftime and the decision by defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski to call, in essence, his own blitz and some of the secondary guys being off the line of scrimmage. Jalen Gilbo comes up and blitzes from his spot, which is in the box. And it felt to me like the perfect play call against, the most inopportune defense for that time, right? And that will be debated for the days and weeks and months to come in the offseason. The second sequence, Chip, Texas in the regular season finished 88th in red zone scoring, 88th in the nation. They had 39 touchdowns on 56 attempts in the red zone. It's not great, and this was a team, Chip, that showed in flashes that they could be a solid red zone team, Chip. But here's the thing that I think if you're a Texas fan, and I think it's you can't ignore it if you're someone who covers this team, it feels a little bit, thank you, it feels a little bit, you can't help but think about it, Chip. Remember how physical this team was at Texas A&M? Yeah. Remember Mike Elko saying that they physically annihilated us? It in a weird way, and listen, I am not critiquing the offensive line. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just stating what I think is obvious. It feels different, Chip. We feel so far removed from that team, that unit that went into Texas A&M and said, "Hey, we're going to beat your behind," in lieu of another word, and come into your home and just do what we want, establish ourselves on the ground. That manifests itself, Chip, with the toss call. And I just published up on the site, up at Horns247.com. You can check it out now. Steve Sarkisian, Kelvin Banks, Quintravian Weisner, three very crucial pieces to that play call. Obviously, Steve called it, and he said the thought process there was that they'd wanted to try and see what was there on the edge, what was there wide. It just ended up being, and he said from his vantage point, he was on the far side, so he couldn't exactly see why things got spilled out as far as they did, but they did. Chip, he also said something else that I would love your thoughts on after I share what Contravian and Kelvin said in the player breakout room. He said that, listen, he wanted to score, right? It wasn't that he didn't want to score, but the thought process was, if we don't score, we'll at least be leaving backed up in their own end. We'll probably get another shot at, scoring with the ball. The old, complementary football field position. Well, we saw what happened 2 plays later. They didn't get that shot, Chip. So I'll just quickly share what Kelvin Banks said. Kelvin Banks said that he kicked his guy out, and it ended up forcing Contravian Wisener to go further wide than the play design, and that kind of busted the play. And Contravian Wisener obviously was distraught after the game. First didn't want to talk about it, and then said, in essence, hey, this was a busted play. So, Chip, with that, your thoughts on that sequence and what the guys had to say postgame?
Yeah, I mean, it just showed a total lack of imagination. He tries to hammer on 1st and goal, brings in his short yardage guy, Jared Gibson. Ohio State pinches down, cuts off all the gaps, so Gibson doesn't go anywhere. Where's the bootleg for Quinn Ewers to have a run pass option, or a pop pass? I mean, bring in Arch Manning, make it look like he's gonna run and go with have Helm, squeeze out of there into the back of the end zone for a pop pass. Something you haven't shown all year. That toss sweep, what has Texas averaged on that play? -7 yards. I mean, it was just such an unimaginative sequence for Texas. It looked like Steve Sarkisian was like fumbling through his play sheet, trying to decide how to attack 1st and goal. And it all blows up. I mean, they go backwards on the toss sweep. They end up with 4th and goal from the 8, Eric, and they didn't attempt the field goal to try to make it a 4-point game. They went for it. Quinn Ewers bailed him out on 4th and 13. Ohio State got after him, and his old roommate at Ohio State, Jack Sawyer, gets him for the strip sack and picks up the ball.
Attention in the press box.
And goes
the next media bus
83 yards. It's okay.
12:45.
We'll work through the conditions, right?
Yeah, we've got the. It's like we're at an airport. We're waiting to hear when our flight's about to depart.
Proceed to lot 10. That's where the bus will meet you. The next media
telling
bus
everybody when the media bus shuttle is going to be leaving from AT&T Stadium. But Eric, that sequence was devastating. I felt like, the players did so many good things in this game, and it felt like the coaches, and they weren't trying to do anything, to mess this game up. They wanted to win it, but Steve Sarkisian, Pete Kwiatkowski, unbelievable game plan. Jeremiah Smith, 1 catch for 3 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, the Texas defense was getting stronger as this game was going on. That's what's so disappointing, is that you wanted to see 2 teams at the height of their powers going at it. I felt like we were going to be in for a great finish.
Sure.
Whether Texas scores a touchdown, I mean, they should score a touchdown on 1st and goal, Eric, but nothing's guaranteed in life. And, and the players being told to retreat 25 yards into a prevent on that, screen pass with 29 seconds left in the half. Just play defense.
Yeah.
How many times, Eric, have we talked about this defense going into protection mode and giving up big plays? I mean, it was last year against Houston, last year against K-State, last year against TCU, this year against Clemson to a degree. And then, I jokingly said with you, it's not even funny, that the 3rd quarter lull got an early start with 29 seconds left in the 2nd quarter. But they come out in the 3rd quarter and they win it 7-0. First time, after 8 straight games of losing the 3rd quarter, Texas won the 3rd quarter 7-0. defense was getting, David Benda with an interception on the Ohio State's first possession of the second half after a pressure by Trey Moore. Vernon Broughton had a drive-killing sack. They were making plays to win this game, and Quinn Ewers was making plays to win this game. Got him down there, first and goal from the 1. They played 2.5 quarters without Matt Golden, their star wide receiver, because of an ankle injury. He came back in the fourth quarter, but a really, really bad sequence after running for 7 yards on first down. Texas has a 3-and-out. Really tough game of offensive play calling for Steve Sarkisian in some critical situations, Eric. But it's disappointing because it felt like the players were getting the momentum turned, and we were going to have a great finish to this game, and it all blew up.
Chip, forgive me if you see me in the audience looking up. There's a television right above us that's showing the final stats and the total stats. And I couldn't help but glance at it, Chip, because to your point, when you talked about it looked like we were shaping up for a really, classic finish. This game was evenly fought. I don't have it. They switched to the individual stats. I have it in front of me, but all of the things kind of lined up in Texas's favor. 9 penalties for Ohio State, right? Silly penalties.
Right.
While Gunnar Helm had one of his own, Ohio State had a couple of silly penalties that really set Texas up well. You talked about the drive, and Chip, look at these numbers. Total yards, it's darn near even. Rushing yards, okay, Ohio State got that because of the sacks. These are all things that if I had said these numbers to you when we did our flagship during the week, you'd think it's going to be a Texas victory. But to the point I was making, that final drive, or I should say the penultimate drive down there at the goal line, Chip, Quinn Ewers starts out, completes his first 4 passes of that drive. The next 2 passes result in pass interferences. So let's just, all intents and purposes, call those completions as well. It looked as if Texas's offense was finally finding its footing, right? They got that third quarter score, which, as you said, they hadn't had in a while. That was an excellent drive by Quinn Ewers and the offense, and they look like they're going to punch it in, and just the failure to execute. I'll come back against. I know you touched on the defensive call by Pete Kwiatkowski. Again, it's one of those things. Every time I look at that play, I can't get into PK's mind and necessarily understand the decision making. It still feels, in essence, Chip, like that was a play that was well blocked by Ohio State. As I said, the perfect play call against a defense, and sometimes that happens, Chip, where it's just you dial up a defense, you think you have something, and just the play call that's there is just literally the beater for that defense, and that's what happened. But again, Chip, it's just it's such a tough pill to swallow if you're a Texas fan, talking to the guys in the or say not the locker room, but the post-game breakout room. It's tough, it's tough. But again, Chip, Texas's season ends in the college football playoff semifinal.
Yeah, I mean, it's Texas dug itself some self-inflicted holes throughout this season, and no bigger than in the last game against Arizona State, to where Quinn Ewers had all or nothing 4th and 13 from the Arizona State 28 in overtime that he hits, and Texas, climbs out of what seemed like a cavernous hole to continue its season. This shouldn't have come down to that. This game, like you said, this was a good fight. We had punches being thrown by both sides. Like I said, the Texas defense was getting stronger as this game was going on. Like you felt, for a defense that played 97 snaps 10 days ago, they were answering the call. And on that screen pass, you drop your back 7, 20 yards. I mean, Anthony Hill goes racing backward. And because it's a screen and the offensive linemen are downfield, they don't encounter a Texas defender for 15 yards.
Right.
And at that point, the defenders are all out of position. They're all racing to try to get to Travian Henderson. They're colliding over each other. They're tripping over each other. The offensive linemen are picking them off. Anthony Hill got picked off by those 3 offensive linemen just come barreling down the field. If you just played a normal down and distance defense, the way that Texas swarms to the ball, that's a whatever. It's not a 75-yard touchdown. And that's the hard part, Eric, is that sometimes as a coach, you overthink things. PK deserves all the credit in the world. Ohio State didn't run for 100 yards. Jeremiah Smith had 1 catch for 3 yards. Ohio State wasn't blowing anyone off the field like they did against Tennessee and Oregon. They were in a slugfest. Will Howard was starting to make mistakes. Interception in the third quarter. He got sacked twice. It feels like we got cheated. Andrew Makuba said this season has felt like a movie. I wanted this movie to be, The Godfather or Rocky or just some fantastic finish. And it's like the movie projector went out, I mean, I don't know. It just seems so, preposterous, really preposterous. But it shouldn't take away from the great efforts that we saw tonight. I mean, even Quinn Ewers, I hope people are not losing their minds here because that kid played with a ton of heart. Yeah. And, you had I thought Jaden Blue was outstanding in this game. You and I talked about it on the flagship. He had to be a part of this, and he was. They opened 1 of 8 on 3rd down, and then on Blue's second touchdown catch, they converted 4 straight 3rd downs. One in which Quinn Ewers runs, to get out of trouble and kind of just pushes the ball forward to Wisner just before his knee hits the ground. On 3rd and 9, Wisner runs for 14 yards and converts it. And, they ran on 3rd down, 3rd and short. They converted it. Wisner was making some tough yards. And then the Jaden Blue touchdown was also on 3rd down. So the pass. So, it just seemed like we were going to get that great finish, Eric. And, I wanted to see how Will Howard was going to have to handle things in a tight situation late in the game. We saw him last year with goal to go, and it didn't work out for him. It worked out for Texas. This time Texas had goal to go, and it sure didn't work out for the Longhorns. They were the kings of goal line stands, Eric, 5 in the last 4 games. Tonight they die by a goal line stand from the Ohio State Buckeyes. And the Buckeyes deserve credit. They held it together. They weren't making the kind of plays that they were against Tennessee and Oregon, and they just kept fighting.
Chip, like you, it feels hollow. It feels like we left wanting more. Because, as you said, this was a game that's really shaping up to be a classic. It still was an excellent game. I mean, think about it, right? In a good heavyweight fight, teams are going to throw their blows, right? And how do you respond from it? How do you respond to it? Ohio State, JT, I'm Tuamalo. I'm not going to.
JTT.
JTT, because I'm going to butcher his last name. He comes out, gets the sack. I think they credit him a sack and a half. Looked like he had 2 sacks early on. It looks like, Ohio State really found something in pressuring the right side of that line with Cam Williams, who clearly, Chip, I got to give Cam credit for gutting it out and seemingly, being healthy enough to go. But he wasn't. I don't want to speculate, but it didn't seem like he was right because he got taken advantage of in a way that we hadn't seen this year. Yeah, Cam struggled with penalties, but he just looked a bit out of sorts, right? So Ohio State throws their blow, and then Texas finds their footing, and their offense, as I said, finally looks like, they get some things going. You get that complimentary football. Then you get the 75-yard, screen for a touchdown. You get the second half and the way it shapes up, Chip. And yeah, man, I do feel empty. I mean, even as someone who covers his team, it feels like, man, not that, again, we have no rooting interest in the way it ends, but it felt like there was more coming, Chip. And I don't know about you, but when you think about, let's just go back in the week and Steve Sarkisian embracing the underdog role. It felt like this team, especially in that 4th quarter, were like, hey, we've shown you we can go blow for blow with this team, right? There were some people saying that, there was going to be a 3-score game or whatnot. That was insane, Chip. I always felt that this Texas team, if they could play their A game or a measure of their A game, it would look like this. So, yeah, I can't help, again, the sequence at the goal line, the screen pass, the screen pass went for a touchdown, the defensive play call, and just the way the last 5 or 4 minutes of the game shaped up, it does feel like, man, we were left just a little bit empty, Chip. But that's, as Steve Sarkisian would say, that's sport, that's football, that's the life of a competitor, right?
Yeah, I mean some interesting storylines. Obviously, it was Will Stone kicking.
Yeah.
Tonight, he didn't ever attempt a field goal. He kicked obviously a couple extra points, but on 4th and 8, 4th and goal from the 8, Steve Sarkisian, eschews the field goal attempt for the touchdown. It felt like he was chasing, some losing bets right there. But with 4 minutes left, you could kick a field goal and rely on your defense, which was playing well. But Sarkisian goes for it. It turns into a complete disaster with the strip sack returned for an 83-yard touchdown. It just felt like the Texas team, the players, deserved better than that ending. And I think, like I said, Steve Sarkisian wasn't trying to butcher this thing. It just got butchered. And, it's life of a play caller. But that's a tough one. That's a tough one because it doesn't, like you said, the offensive line was getting handled a little bit early in this game.
Yeah.
But then they found their footing. I mean, converting those third downs with some gutsy runs by Quintravian Wisner. Quinn Ewers making some nice passes. He was stepping up in the pocket. Man, I thought we were headed for a really fun finish there. And yeah, sorry, I'm turning into a broken record. I guess this means we should probably wrap it up because I keep repeating myself. But Eric, any closing thoughts? I mean, I know people are going to want to get into what's next.
Yeah.
For Quinn Ewers, and
Yeah.
we should mention that. The sense, he and Sarkisian, the way they talked tonight, Eric, it sounds like, Quinn Ewers will probably move on to the NFL draft, and Steve Sarkisian was very appreciative of Quinn Ewers. I've said this, his legacy at Texas was very important to him. He wanted to make sure that they won a conference championship and got, their year up in the stadium, which he did accomplish last year, right here at Jerry World. And, he was trying to gut it out tonight and came up a little bit short, but I thought Quinn Ewers was, really good when he had to be, certainly against Arizona State. And again, tonight probably could have benefited from some more conviction in the play calling from Steve Sarkisian on 1st and goal.
Yeah, Chip, to your point, I see the comment here in the YouTube. I disagree, respectfully. Did Quinn play a perfect ball game? No, right? Was Quinn perfect all year? No. But Chip, I have a hard time believing, and with respect to the comment there, it was Quinn Ewers who switched to max protection against Arizona State. It was Quinn Ewers who made the audibles to get Jaden Blue sprung against Clemson. We can sit here and view Quinn through the prism of, as the comment says there, inconsistent floating balls, etc. As I said, Chip, Quinn Ewers is the guy who got them in position, completing 4 of his first 4 passes on that drive and drawing the pass interferences. So won't belabor that point too long. You were talking about Quinn Ewers' future. I will just mention, because I was there and spoke with Kelvin Banks. Kelvin did not commit one way or the other. He did say, kind of what you'd expect. He had to speak with his family and his parents about what his future is. But listen, Chip, I don't have kids. You do, but Kelvin Banks is now a parent, and he ain't got room to turn down the NFL money that is coming his way as a top 5, top 10 NFL draft pick. So there is that. So Kelvin will likely be moving on. Obviously, Michael Taft is a guy who has a decision to make, right? I didn't get a chance to speak with him in the open locker room, but we'll see. what his future holds as well. And yeah, we'll have plenty of time. I'll probably save some of this because I'm going to write about it for the site for later tonight / I guess today, I should say, since it's past midnight here, Central Time, about what a lot of the veterans said about the future of Texas football. Because I give credit to guys like Barron Sorrell, Calvin Banks, David Benda. They all were extremely high on the future of Texas football. So that is certainly something to keep an eye on moving forward, Chip.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about as we wind it down here, you talk about the numbers, and the passing yards were 289 to 283. The rushing yards, 81 rushing yards for Ohio State, 58 for Texas, 9 penalties on Ohio State, 5 on Texas. That was a concern. Third downs, Ohio State converted only 3 of 10. But when you get a touchdown on a simple screen for 75 yards, and you get an 83-yard scoop and score, you bail out your offense. And fourth downs, Steve Sarkisian, 1 of 3. Their very first drive, Eric, they drove right down the field and went for it on fourth down and got nothing. So, it's tough. It's tough. You're going to second guess and rethink and wonder. But Quinn Ewers got sacked 4 times. Will Howard got sacked twice. Their numbers were almost identical. I mean, Will Howard threw for 289. Quinn threw for 283. Quinn had 2 touchdowns. Howard had 1 touchdown. Both each had an interception. This was not Texas getting blown off the field. I mean, they ended up losing by 2 touchdowns, but we all know how that happened there in the final 4 minutes. But this was excellent chess for a while. And Eric, this was a special team. You don't want to let these opportunities get away because of how special of a group you had. And, we look back at the defensive tackles that Texas brought in the transfer portal, Jermaine Lolay and Bill Norton. And Matt Golden coming in, Isaiah Bond tried to play again tonight, ended up with 1 catch for 8 yards. Would like to have seen Silas Bolden get a lot more love because he had that incredible 24-yard reception where he broke out of a tackle and spun forward for 24 yards on one of the touchdown drives. But it is what it is. But it was a special group. We talked a lot this season about Jody Barron, Andrew Makuba, and Michael Taft's connection. That will come to an end. And again, this Texas secondary held Jeremiah Smith, who'd been averaging over 100 yards, averaging 2 touchdowns, and touchdowns, by the way, that were averaging more than 20 yards per touchdown catch. So they limited him to 1 catch for 3 yards, Eric. It was an outstanding game plan from Pete Kwiatkowski and a great execution by the Texas players, with the exception of that 1 play at the end of the first half.
Yeah, as I think we've emphasized, it's something that will stick in the minds of Longhorn fans for the days and weeks and months to come, in that goal line sequence as well, Chip. But just to kind of, put a cap on what you said, at least from my perspective, yeah, this was a special team, Chip. The 25 wins over the last 2 years. There were some times, and this much better than I do, Texas couldn't find 25 wins in 3 seasons, 4, maybe more, right? So it's a special group, a special season, and we'll see what the future holds. But again, you definitely feel a little empty after this one.
Yeah. Well, Eric, it's been a heck of a lot of fun doing these.
It's been a fun year with you, Chip. Let's make sure we note that as well.
That's right. And listen, the flagship podcast will continue.
That never stops.
Football season never ends here at saw Justice Terry. We saw Cole Brevard on the sidelines. There's a lot to look forward to in Texas football, and we'll have you covered every step of the way at horns247.com. And, of course, basketball season. So don't go anywhere. We will sign off for now on this flagship podcast recap of Texas's 28-14 season-ending loss to Ohio State in the college football playoff semifinals here at the Cotton Bowl. For Eric Henry, I am Chip Brown. We'll see you over at horns247.com. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. And until next time, stay safe and keep the faith.